What's going on, everybody? Spaceballs here. Welcome back to a nier reincarnation video. Alright, now today we're going to talk about team building, starting from your first team all the way to your end game team and PvP when it comes in the future. I'm going to cover all aspects of it and show you guys the best way to pinpoint a team and build it up in the correct way. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is team force. I think a lot of people get confused to the point where, oh, if my team force is high, then I have a really good team and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. But that's not necessarily the case, because before I was pushing 70k plus team force, and then I changed some runes around with better set bonuses, and my team force actually went down, but my team overall is actually better than it was before. I mean, yes, force is a general indicator on how you're building your team and if you're building your team right, but at the same time, just because you have a high team force doesn't mean you're necessarily building your character the right way or putting the right set bonuses, because the set bonuses and memories I have on now are way better than the memories I had on before, yet it still lowered my team force by quite a bit, but I still prefer to have my team this way than I did before. So with that out of the way, let's talk about just building up your general team. The first thing you want to do is pinpoint the team you're going to build. So I'm sure most of you guys re-rolled your accounts and you rolled for 2P, 2B, or A2, one of those characters. And when I say pinpoint, I'm referring to the fact of building these specific characters and not jumping all over the place and building other characters that you might not use in the future. Resources are very limited outside of the event. Everything else you're going to have to farm for. We don't have handbooks right now as far as ascensions go, but ascensions aren't the end all be all. The first ascension is the most important one. After that, you're just making your character's passive stronger. So for example, my A2 already has one ascension. So if I was to pity out another character, it would be 2B or 2P. This way I can get their first ascension, which will unlock their passive. I think that's the strongest part of ascending. Yes, getting the max at 90 is a good thing, but the first ascension is the most important thing. So if you have the opportunity to get an ascension over bringing a character up to 80 or 85, definitely pick the ascension over doing that. It is the smart move. Now, building up your first team, it's argued that you don't need a healer. Some people say you do need a healer. Me personally, I build up Theo on the side, so if I do need a healer in the future, I have her ready. For a lot of the early game content and the very hard content, you don't really need a healer if you're using 3 damage dealers, because you can just basically blow through the content without having a healer. Now, I don't know in future content to come if that's going to change and you are going to need a healer, but having a healer is not a bad thing and it definitely helps out. But running 3 damage dealers also works, so it's really up to you. I would say build a healer on the side, so pinpoint your 3 damage dealers that you're going to build up, or your 3 main characters, and then build up Theo or another healer, F66X, whatever one you want, build that up on the side. This way you have a healer in the future just in case you need it, or it makes your team better using that healer. I run it both ways myself. Sometimes I'll take out one of my damage dealers and I'll put in Theo, but right now this team currently is clearing most of the content I needed to outside of some of the memory dungeons. But the memory dungeons are super hard, and until you get endgame memories, it's going to be hard whether you have a healer or 3 damage dealers. I don't think it's really going to make a difference. But sticking to those 3 units is very important, because you don't want to spread your resources all over the place. You really want to stick to their skills and putting all your resources into those specific characters. This way you have the resources you need to max them out. Because if you're building other characters on the side, or you're building up 6 main characters, what's going to happen is you're going to run out of resources and you're not going to be able to make those characters as strong as they can be. So the first step is pinpoint your team, pick the characters you want to build, and then you can start building up your team and building up your character one at a time. So then after that, I would say pick a main character that you want to focus on first. For example, we'll say mine is 2P. I want to build her first, so I'm going to put all my love into her before anybody else. Then if I have extra resources, it'll trickle down to the other 2 characters. Now the first thing you're going to do is get your character up to level 70 as soon as possible. I would say that's most essential, because it's going to bring the character's base stats up to where they need to be, up to their max. Next up would be your primary weapon, and one thing to keep in mind is match your primary weapon with your hero that you're building. So if your hero holds a one-handed weapon, make sure you're using a one-handed weapon. Same thing with the secondaries. You want to prioritize what they are. So if they're a one-handed holder, you give them a one-handed sword. If they hold a two-handed sword like A2, you give them a two-handed sword. That is something very important, and that goes the same for the secondary weapons. And it's going to give you the extra stats as well, opposed to not having it. So as time goes on, it's going to be more efficient for you to prioritize their main-handed weapons. Weapon ascensions become very hard to get, because you're going to be leveling up so many weapons, so you really don't want to waste them. You really want to pick and choose what weapons you dump them into. Now, the one thing I would recommend is using your black weapons as secondary weapons. That's a great choice, because as you farm them and level them up, they become stronger than most 4-star weapons. That's why I have the Lars sword on my 2P currently, because I'm going to be leveling it up anyways, and it's going to be stronger than any other 4-star I'd put on her. And I'm not wasting any of my XL weapon enhancements, because I'm going to be leveling that weapon up anyways. The next thing is element advantage. I want to pull this up so I can talk about this real quick. If you click on the element, it'll pull up this tree. Now you see on the right hand side we have light and dark. This means Light is strong to dark, dark is strong to light. It does not mean that light and dark is strong to the other three elements. It just means it's neutral. So you do not get element advantage. You're just neutral to the other three elements. If you're looking to be that dominant element, it's light into dark, dark into light, fire into wind, wind into water, water into fire. That means you are the dominant element. If you use a dark weapon, it's not bad to use it against the other three elements, but it does not give you the dominant element advantage. I think a lot of people misunderstand that. If you're facing a dark boss, you're going to use a light weapon. If you're facing a light boss, you're going to use a dark weapon. If you're facing a wind boss, you're going to use a fire weapon. If you're facing a water boss, you're going to use a wind weapon, and so forth and so forth. If you're facing bosses and you're getting completely smacked, most of the time, if you switch your main-handed elements to the dominant element, you will smack the boss back in return. This will give you a huge advantage in your boss fights or in any fight in Nier Reincarnation by taking advantage of this element tree. So pull it up, look at it, get familiar with it, see what's dominant to what. And a little tip to throw in here about bosses: if you're stuck on a boss stage, most of the time if you turn auto off and you just manual the skills and don't use the main skills until the third wave, and then you turn the auto back on, and most of the time you'll be able to beat the boss that way, because what happens is on the second wave, your team will waste all of their main skills, and then going into the boss stage, you won't have any main skills. Most of the time if I turn auto off until the boss stage, I'm able to clear the boss. If I have auto on, I'll usually get smacked by the boss, even if I'm a dominant element, because what happens is the boss gets a 25% HP, and then he throws out 2 AoEs, and most of the time, those 2 AoEs are going to kill your team, especially early on. So a good idea for secondary weapons is using pure dark weapons. That's definitely going to be in your best interest. Now, another thing to keep in mind is when you're leveling up your weapons, don't forget about the skills. I made the epic fail of not realizing that there's more than one skill. If you scroll down and you click the other ones, you'll see that there's usually 4 skills on each weapon. So you want to level these up kind of equally unless you're going after one specific stat. For me on this one, I'm going after crit rate, so I'll do crit rate first, and then I'll go to the other ones. So look at the skills and see what's going to benefit you most on that weapon, and pinpoint it, go after it, level it up, and don't forget to do it because it's really important, especially on your main-handed weapon. Eventually you want to do it on your secondary weapons too, but doing it on your primary first is most important. Same thing goes for character skills. The character only has one, so it's not as bad. Another tip to throw in here is if you run out of these resources, especially these potions, after you cleared the events, you can go to the main quest where the chapters are and farm those. Those give a lot of these potions. I farmed 18 just by doing a couple floors today, no problem. So if you run short on these resources, just go there and you'll be able to farm these up, and then you'll be able to max out your character skills. Now the next thing on the list after your character is fully ascended, you picked out your primary and secondary weapons, and now you're ready to move into memories. The thing with memories is, especially early on, don't kill yourself with them, but the one thing you want to focus on is the set bonus. Even if you have 1-star, crappy, terrible memories, still take advantage of the set bonus. Attack is really strong early on. Even later on, attack is strong, so getting any extra attack on your character is going to be huge for you. Now, I just changed most of my memories to 3-star memories because I've been farming stage 7 of the rune dungeon, or the memory dungeon. I know I say runes a lot, it's just because I'm used to saying runes. But the best thing I can tell you, especially building your first team, or when you're just breaking into memory dungeons, get a set bonus on them, whether it's a small one or large one. Take advantage of this. Even if you have a 1-star crappy memory, at least you're taking advantage of the set bonus and getting the extra 15% attack. Now, primaries can be flat in this game. You want to stick to percentages just like any other gacha. Now, one thing different about this game compared to other gachas is you can get the same primary stat in your secondary stats. For example, I have attack as a primary. I can still roll that in a secondary stat. So I can have attack and attack. I can have crit rate and crit rate, crit damage and crit damage. I can pair up any primary stat in my secondary stats. I didn't notice that at first, and when I did notice it, I was like, wow, that's huge, because a lot of games do not allow you to do that. And then as you build up your team, everything will get stronger. But you have to start somewhere, guys. Remember that. With all of this stuff, even with your weapons, you have to start somewhere. So even if you don't have, the prioritized weapon, you still have to put something on there. That's why I recommend using the pure dark weapons. This way you're not wasting, because you're going to have to build all the pure dark weapons together anyways. So if you throw one on there and you level it up, it won't be wasting resources, opposed to just building up a crappy weapon that you might never use in the future. You're always going to try to do the best you can until you're able to do better. Now, the next thing is companions. Now, early on, I was just pairing up the element with the element. So if I had 2B, for example, I'd put her with a dark one. As I'm moving through the game, I'm noticing that some companions are definitely stronger than others. I like to use the ones that have blind or heal. I think those are the strongest ones, especially early on or building your first team. Blind is super broken in this game along with stun. So if you can get a blind, that's really good. So that's why I'm building this one and this one, because this gives me 2 blinds on my team. And then the middle light one gives me a heal. And as you go through the main quest, you'll get more companions. I would just recommend not dumping too much resources into the companion unless you know you're going to use that companion long term. That is why I started dumping resources into the two dark ones, because they both have blind. It seems that the dark ones have blind and the light ones have heal. Can't go wrong either way. Having a backup heal, especially if you're not using healer, can always be a good thing. And having blind and stun, like I said before, super strong. So I've been sticking to the light and dark ones myself because I feel like that is the strongest and best way for me to do it until I get more resources to build the other companions alongside of it. Early on, resources for companions are super limited, and once you get them to level 15, they start costing a fortune. So I would recommend building the ones with blind or heal, or at least pairing the element to your character. But I do think blind and heal is your best way to go. And while we're talking about healing, if you do decide to go with Theo in your team, I would recommend you using this weapon on her. I just want to show you real quick, because this weapon I think is going to be much better than her weapon in the long term. So it's a light weapon. Just like 2P's weapon, it's going to increase your light damage by 16%, and that is at level 1. But the great thing about this weapon is it's going to boost your attack on your Theo, which is going to give you more heal. And then it's also going to recover HP for all allies and increase their attack by 8%. This is a great weapon for your Theo. So if you do decide to build a healer, I would 100% recommend going with this weapon, especially because you're going to be building this weapon anyways when you're building up your black weapons. And this weapon pairs great with a healer, whether it's Theo or F66. I would use this weapon on any of them. I love this weapon. I can't wait to use this weapon in the near future myself. I think we touched on everything I wanted to talk about. If you guys have anything to add to this, if I forgot anything, like always, comment down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for the support here on YouTube. You guys have blown me away lately. We are so close to 4,000 subs. Once we reach it, we will start another sub celebration. If you want to follow me on Twitch and Discord, those are always linked down below. We do 2 monthly giveaways on Discord, random giveaways on Twitch. If you want to be a part of the random giveaway that we do here on YouTube, all you have to do is sub to the channel, like, and comment on my past 10 videos, and that will automatically enter you to the random giveaway. I pick those winners on Discord. I truly do love each and every single one of you. I will see you in the next one. Spaceballs out. Peace.